know the feeling. You sit down with a struggling student and give them the exact advice they need to hear. It's logical, it's insightful, and it's drawn from years of experience. And then they do the exact opposite. When that happens, our instinct is to push harder. We raise our voices, we add a punishment, and we demand that this kid suddenly think and act like a rational adult. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl had a brilliant way of describing this kind of friction. He compared human relationships to two objects colliding. Think of two metal pots crashing. If both stay entirely rigid, the impact leaves a dent, and everyone walks away bruised. But if one object is flexible, like rubber, it absorbs the hit. As the educator, you must be the rubber, absorbing the emotional friction. Which raises a question. If trying to force immediate behavior change damages the trust between you, what are you actually supposed to do? A mentor's effectiveness comes from acting as a precursor, someone who clears the debris and prepares the path so the student can walk it themselves. The first step to clearing the path is accepting exactly where the student is standing right now. We have to stop expecting kids to operate with adult logic. When a young child throws a tantrum, it's usually because they lack the vocabulary to explain what's hurting them inside. When a teenager gets defiant, they are testing their boundaries to prove their independence. It isn't a personal attack against you. That means you cannot regress to their emotional level. If a teenager yells to assert power and you yell back to assert dominance, you've just dropped down to play their game. You lose your ability to guide them. Allowing a student the space to act their age without immediately judging their moral character is how you build a foundation of lasting trust. When that trust is built, you become part of a critical safety network. In counseling, there's a concept called the 4 doors. It maps out exactly where a person in a quiet, desperate crisis will look for help. The first door they knock on is usually their friends. The second door is their family. If those first 2 are closed and they find no support, they can spiral toward a devastating 4th door, a fatal, tragic outcome. But right before that happens, they reach the 3rd door. That door is you, the teacher, the coach, the mentor. You are the emergency intercept. To know when someone is standing at your door, you have to watch for abrupt shifts. It's the straight-A student who suddenly stops turning in work. It's a drastic drop in weight. It's a kid whose baseline mood turns unusually quiet. And you have to make sure your door is actually open. Even your physical space matters. If a student comes to talk, step out from behind your desk. Desks create a hierarchy. Sitting across from them, with nothing in between, signals that you are truly listening. Your daily observation and your physical availability are the exact mechanisms that catch a falling student before they ever approach that final tragic threshold. When you do catch them, guiding them back to the right path requires precision. Think of a car speeding out of control. If you grab the emergency brake and yank it up instantly, the wheels lock, the car violently skids, and you crash. Demanding immediate, absolute perfection from a struggling student is the psychological equivalent of pulling that handbrake. Instead, you have to apply gradual friction. You pump the brakes. You explain the concept. You teach the right behavior. You patiently accompany them as they stumble, and you slowly correct their trajectory. Real, sustainable behavioral transformation is a slow, controlled deceleration. It takes time. Even if you do all of this perfectly, even with the best empathy, the sharpest observation, and flawless pacing, human effort alone has a ceiling. Relying purely on your own psychology and skill is a finite equation. 1 + 1 will only ever equal 2. But when you invite the Holy Spirit into your mentoring, you add an infinite multiplier to your limited efforts. You are no longer working alone. This shifts the goal. You teach the student the practice of discernment. You help them look at their choices and ask, does this action bring me closer to a sense of deep peace, or does it leave me restless and anxious? True accompaniment teaches a young person to navigate their own conscience and build their own relationship with God. They move from following external mandates to understanding their internal spiritual compass. Of course, getting them there is exhausting. It often feels like you are repeating the exact same lessons, day in and day out to a wall. It can feel incredibly monotonous. The writer and Bishop Fulton Sheen had a beautiful way of looking at this kind of repetition. He observed that repeating "I love you" captures a unique instance of care every time it's spoken, existing in a new moment in time. Patiently repeating guidance to a student works in that same spirit. It is a persistent, active expression of love. You don't need a magic recipe to be a great mentor. You just need to show up, be flexible, and offer a patient, prayerful presence. By taking those small, repetitive steps today, you are paving the way for a life to grow.